Hey folks, Tony here, and I made the Importmap Laravel repository public, and I wanted to go over the installation steps in a real application because the instructions are for new applications. Like if you create a fresh Laravel install and then you install the package, then you can run the import map install. But I figure it would be useful to, do a screencast where we go over these steps on a existing application. And yeah, for that, I actually have the application already running. I've done these steps before, and you can see over here, it's actually public already. So this is deployed using import maps, as you can see over here. And yeah, so I figured we could do this step-by-step installation together. And yeah, I have a local version of the application prior to the import maps setup, and it's currently failing because I haven't actually installed npm the npm packages and compiled the assets. And I haven't done that because we're not gonna need it. So yeah, let's go. So I have the application here, and the first step that I'm going to do is to install the Importmap Laravel. And to do that, I can just go back to the installation steps, copy this line, the composer required line, and I'm gonna paste it over here. We should get a warning because some of the dependencies are locked in my app, but I can get away from it by running with a -w flag, which should just upgrade dependencies. Okay, now that's done, and if this was a fresh application, the next step would be to run the PHP artisan import map install command, but yeah, it's not a new application. So what we are going to do is I'm going to copy the file, the import map file from the package. And I'm gonna paste it inside the routes folder. Okay, so now I'm going to the VS Code and I'm gonna open that file. So this should be the default scaffolding stuff from Laravel. I actually am using pusher here, so I'm gonna uncomment these two lines. And okay, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to open the app.js file. And in here, let me also open the file tree so we can see the file structure for the resources.js. And yeah, so we have to convert these imports to use import maps. And the way we're going to do that is just by simply copying these lines and using it like this. All right, now let's go to the bootstrap file. And we can't use require, so we are going to have to convert that as well. And I'm gonna do this Lodash. And then assign it to the window like this. Same for the Axios. And since these dependencies, like both Lodash and Axios, they are already pinned over here, I don't actually need to pin them. All right, so this is importing the local echo file, and I don't need this anymore. I can just import echo, and the pin all from resources should handle this import case. Okay, that's it for the bootstrap file. Now let's go to the echo file. And yeah, this is importing the Laravel echo, which is already pinned, but this we have to convert from required to import for sure. And I'm gonna assign it like this. Everything else should, we don't have all the imports here, but we do have mention to process env. And yeah, we can't use this And that's because, well, we could use this before, and Webpack would replace these mentions to process.env with the values that are defined in our environment variables at build time. But since we are using import maps, we don't actually have a build time. So we would need to convert this to something else. And what is this something else? Well, we are going to use meta tags. And yeah, so let's see how this will look like. So we can do document.head.querySelector, and we are going to look for a meta tag called echo, and I'm gonna say pusher app key, and then I'm gonna get the content of that, just content. And then I'm gonna do the same for the cluster. And this is pusher app cluster. Okay. And the same for SSL. So I'm gonna copy this, paste it right here, and echo pusher use TLS. And the contents, yeah, this one I'm gonna check if it's actually equals to true. That should be it for this tree, but yeah, I also need to do that for these ones over here. So I'm gonna copy that and paste it like this, and then echo pusher host. And I'll do the same for the port. There's actually a check here for location dot host, and I have the same check for null. All right, and then this should be pusher host, pusher port, something like this. All right, so that should be it for this echo configurations. We don't actually have these meta tags created, so I'm gonna go ahead to the app.blade file, and over here in my meta tags, I'm gonna include a layouts.pusher meta, and I'm gonna create that partial here, pusher meta.blade.php, and I'm just going to copy one of these, and I'm gonna paste it like this. So for the first one, I actually have defined that. It's in the config broadcasting connections pusher app key, I think. Yeah, pusher key. We can double check that by going to the broadcasting config. So that should be over here on the pusher connection. Key secret. We shouldn't actually publish the secrets, just the key. The key is fine. So yeah, the cluster, we can do the cluster next. This is the cluster. Let's copy this and rename this to cluster. And then we go to options, cluster. Okay, then they use TLS. Well, not quite yet. Yeah, so these are the configurations for the backend, but yeah, the configurations to the front end are different in my case because I'm running the pusher server, the Laravel WebSocket server in a container. So the front end and the back end need different configurations. And the way I figured I could do is by having a front end key over here where I could specify the other tags. So use TLS, which is actually not defined yet. So let's go here, pusher front end, and use TLS. Next one is the host. So echo host and front end pusher. Oh, actually just host name, host maybe just host, and port. And this one I have to change over here. All right, so let's add these three configurations here. So the first one is use TLS and that's gonna be defined in the pusher frontend use TLS key. I already have that set up because I've done this before, but in your case, you would have to convert that. Actually, I have in the example, I have the previous version of these configurations, which uses the mix prefix. So these environment variables, they are available in the compilation of the JavaScript time. But yeah, we don't need that anymore. So this .env over here, this should be all you need basically. And yeah, the example will be updated to match accordingly. So all we need there is this part. And okay, now let's actually go back to the broadcasting and finish this part. So we have to configure the host over here, which should be pusher front end host, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, pusher front end host, and the next one is pusher front end port. Okay, so now we can copy this include because I'm using the same, I'm also using the JS files in the guest layout. So yeah, we can actually go back here and add the include over here. And that should do it. So we have covered the main files, app, bootstrap, and echo. Now let's go ahead to let's go back to the app and see the next ones actually. So the next one is elements. So let's go to the elements and let's check the first one. So this one uses Hotwire Turbo, and I don't think that's actually imported yet. So let's go ahead and import it. So if we open the terminal, we can run artisan importmap bin and then specify Hotwire Turbo. And that should add Turbo to the import maps list, which is fine. So this is covered now. And now we can change this from this to just importing echo. And let's go to the second one. That's also just using Turbo, so that's fine. And we are done with the elements. Now let's go to the stimulus lib and then we can see what it uses. So this is actually interesting. We can't, first let's just install stimulus. We can pin it just fine. And this will work, but this one, I'm not actually going to install it because I don't know how, I don't know if this is actually going to work. So I'm gonna delete it and I'm gonna delete this part as well, which was handling the auto loading of the controllers, the stimulus controllers. And instead of doing the auto loading, we are actually going to import everything manually. So I'm gonna go with bridge controller from controllers, bridge controller. And then all we have to do is run the stimulus register and we give it the bridge name and we point it to the controller class. So we need to do that for all imports over here. I'm not gonna make you watch it, and I'm actually going to jump into the future and we'll see this done. Alright, so that should be it. All the controllers are mapped, and now we should be able to continue. So the next one is Alpine. And I think I have Alpine pinned. Well, I don't, so I'm gonna pin it. And this should be it. There's no require or anything in here, so it should be fine. Then we have Trix, and Trix is tricky. So first of all, let's just pin it. And that should get us to the 2.0 alpha. And that's fine. So we can do this, and we don't need to do this. We can just import Trix, but we can't import CSS over here because we are not using Webpack anymore. And the way I don't know how to handle that well yet, but the way I've done this was, well, if I check this out over here and I go to the browser and I load it and I change this to CSS, this is actually working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going back to the app file, and under styles over here, I'm going to add the CDN CSS for Trix, which should be okay. Now Trix is done. Let's go to Turbo. Turbo is using hotwire stuff. I don't think I need this. I can actually do just this. And also this should already be handled. And I think it should be started. Like if you need to do anything with Turbo, that's the place that you configure it. In my case, I don't. So bridge is to talk to Turbo Native. That's Turbo Native stuff. There's no requirement over here, so that's fine. And that's done. Okay, so we have covered elements, libs, and all the root files. Let's go to each controller. And over here we have hotwire stimulus, which is already pinned, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, stimulus is pinned. Libs bridge, this one we don't need the dots at the beginning, and we are ready for the next one. So hotwire stimulus, that's fine. Stimulus also fine. Stimulus fine. Stimulus is fine. Fine. This one actually uses element transition, which is a library for automatically adding tail and CSS transitions to elements. And that's not pinned yet, so I'm gonna pin it. Artisan import map pin element transitions, and that should be fine. So this should work. Hotwire stimulus, that should work. This one should work as well. This one should work. This one is interesting. Okay, so it uses Tributejs, so let's add Tributejs. Okay, so Tributejs was added. This is also making use of Trix, which we don't need to do it like this anymore. We can just require libs Trix. And this was also requiring the CSS for Tributejs, and that's not possible anymore. So I'm gonna do the same thing as we did with Trix, and let's see if that actually works. CSS, nope, not found. Let's see here, nope. So let's go to Unpackage. And then we can use, can I search in here somehow? React. Can I do Tributejs, something like this? Yep, looks like it. Okay, so if I do CSS, does it work? Yep, okay. So that's what I'm going to use. Preferably, we should use the same CDN for everything. But yeah, for this case, I couldn't find another way, so I'm going to use this one. All right, so this should be handled. And the other one just uses stimulus. Okay, so that's fine. If we close everything over here, now we can actually, if we go to the terminal and run import map JSON, we can see all the imports and how they are mapped. So everything's looking fine over here. We have app, bootstrap, and stuff. Okay, so that's fine. Now we need to make a change to the layout to actually include the import map tag and yeah, so I'm gonna replace this part over here where we were previously including using mix to use the import maps tag. I'm gonna do the same with the guest layout. I believe, yeah, the guest layout also uses it. So that's fine. We are still going to use CSS over here. We are going to use Mix to compile CSS so we can have Tailwind installed. For now, at least, because I'm cooking up something that will allow us to get rid of every node dependency that we have. But yeah, if we're using Tailwind, I mean. And for now, I can actually go to the Webpack config. I can remove this line entirely. We're not going to compile CSS and we are not going to compile JavaScript anymore using Webpack, so that's fine. And this part, I'm gonna leave the CSS. I'm gonna actually remove the Webpack config override over here because that was just adding this. We don't need JavaScript anymore. All right. So that's fine. This is Node. This is Node. This is Node. This is fine. Okay, so let's go to the package.json file, which should be somewhere in here. And I'm gonna remove everything that is not needed for Tailwind. And this goes away. This stays. This goes away, I think. Chokidar, not sure why I need it, but hey. This goes away. This goes away. Laravel mix, I need it. This goes away. Porsche goes away. Don't know if I need this, but I'm gonna leave it. Tributejs goes away. Trix goes away, and view compiler goes away because I'm not using that. All right, so this should be it actually. Now let's run npm update. All right, now let's run this part because I don't like severity notices. Okay, that should be fine. Now let's compile the assets. It should be fast. We're using Tailwind and just CSS compilation, so that's fine. And we actually need one more step, which is to configure the links. So let's go to our file system. Down here on the links, we can do this. This is mapping our resources.js folder to public/js. That's for local development only. That's why we have this ternary over here. So if it's in local development, we are going to map the resource.js to public. Otherwise, we are going to remove it. So we are not doing this for production. Production will use something else, and we'll see that in a second. So if we go back to the browser now and try to open the application, that should just work. And now if we open up the browser here, the DevTools, I'm gonna make this always on top, and I'm gonna refresh over here, and then we can see that we are making use of import maps. So if we check the console, there is a hotwire tuple does not provide. Hotwire tuple does not provide the actually. Okay, so that's fine. Yeah, this one I've done differently previously. So if I go back to tuple, this package it's using ESM, but it doesn't have a default export, which is what the error is telling me. So I should do like this. And that should be it. If I go back and refresh, the error should be gone now. It's still disable caching. Okay, so now we are actually getting another error, and that's because some of the values are not configured properly, so that's weird. Which error is it? Pusher key, echo pusher app key, echo pusher app key. That's actually fine. Meta. Let's go back to the echo setup. Echo pusher app key. Echo pusher. Let's make sure that the... Oh, I know. Yeah. So it's missing the name. You probably knew this. Okay, so this is missing the name matcher in the selector here. Let's go back to the browser and refresh, and that error should be gone now. We're still getting an error here related to the WebSockets, which is not fine. Okay, that's gone. And if we check here, finished. So that should be fine. Messages, connection, WebSocket is closed before the connection is established. I don't know what's going on. So let's see here. Echo pusher port should use 363, and it's not actually using that. So just make sure we are using the correct thing. And we are. That's interesting. It shouldn't do this like this. Okay. Name echo pusher port. If I go here to front end port, if I go front end port, it's using this, which is fine, I think. If I go to the browser and I do document.head query selector meta name equals this, what do I get? The meta content, and that's this. Okay, so otherwise no, that's what we get. If we do this, that's what we get. So this should be fine, motherfucker. Maybe it needs to be a parse and I don't know. Yeah, so that's not working. All right, so this should be fine. Let's now go ahead to the login page and let's try to log in and use the application a little bit. So this app is using Jetstream, which means we can go to the add the Steam settings and everything should be working there. We can go to the profile and everything should be working here. We should have modals, everything just working. That's cool. If we go to the posts, we have a posts tab over here, and yeah, so if we try to edit the post, it should open the form inline, that's fine. If we add a new reaction, that's using tuple frames and stuff. So that should be fine. If we go to the Livewire integration, which Livewire should still be working, that's fine. The merge tab should still work just fine over here. And we have to, okay, that's fine. We can increase the count. All that's done with Turbo. That's awesome. If we go to the tweets tab, we can see that there's a new tweet modal over here. Validation should still be working. That's fine. And we can create a new tweet. And we can edit the tweet inline. Updated. That's all fine. We can also edit the flyout like this. That's also fine. All right. So everything seems to be working. That's awesome. Everything except WebSockets. So let me go back to this. Can go ahead and do this, clean the app, and then I can go back to main, which is probably fine. Yeah, so okay, so let's see if the WebSocket server is running. That's actually not running, so some stuff is not running. Yeah, so it couldn't connect to the WebSocket server because that was down. And now we're going to bring it up. Okay, now that should be fine. If we refresh, there are no errors anymore, luckily. Okay, so that's okay. And if we go back to messages, it's actually closed. I don't know what's going on. So that's fine. Is it still working? Sale PS is still running. That's running. Is there any logs on it? WebSockets test. I've tested this before and it was working just fine. I don't know what happened. So if we go back to localhost, Laravel WebSockets, sockets like this, we should see the dashboard. Should give us some hints on what's going on. Okay, now if we try to connect it, and everything should be fine. All right, we are connected. If we go to the logs, we see that there is actually a connection there. So everything seems to be fine. And if we try now to open a new browser and go back to localhost, let me remove the always on top and close this. And if I go, all right, and I don't know, remove a reaction here. And I actually remember to run artisan queue work tries one. That should be fine. Okay, so that's removed. If I try it again, I should see it being removed. So that's fine. All right, so if I create a new comment here, it should get to the other browser, which it does, so that's fine. If I update to like this, 3 is a like number, and I go back here, we should see that the 3 is there. That's fine. Awesome. So everything seems to be working now. As I said before, this is fine for local development. We are actually making use, I don't think I shared this, but we are making use of Laravel storage link, actually. I think I've showed how to configure this, but I haven't shown the link running. So this was already running before. If I go to public JS, I should see a mimic of the JS folder I have locally. And that's fine for development, although you might get some browser caching issues. I'm still not sure on how to solve them yet for local development, but yeah. Anyways, it should be fine for local, and for production, you don't want to do that. Because, yeah, if we do the imports like this and the bridge controller.js file changes, well, the browser might be cached, and the users that have that already cached, they will not get it. So we need to tweak the file name and add a digest of the file's content to the file name in order to, bust the cache for production. And that's what the optimize command does. So if you go ahead and do import map optimize, we'll see that a bunch of files, all the files that were mapped locally, they were copied over to a dist.js folder inside the public directory. So there should be a dist folder over here, and inside that dist folder should be a JS folder which contains the app file, the echo file, the bootstrap file, and all the files that we have locally, honestly. And that's fine. There should also be a manifest file in the public folder for the import maps. And if we go public, we can see all the modules and the paths, and if they are preloaded or not. And if this file is present, our JSON is going to be generated using this file, not the pins. So that's something to remember. You don't want to use optimize locally. You want to use optimize in production just to handle this case where the file contents gets created. And by the way, this digest is generated based on the file content. So if you change the file name, you get a new digest. So every time you run PHP Artisan Optimize, you should get the same digest over here if the file didn't change. So if we check the emoji controller, we try to find it. Emoji controller 54 ends with C9. 54 ends with C9. That's fine. If we change it, emoji controller, I was changed, and we run the optimize now, we'll see that the emoji controller gets a new digest. So every time, everything else should be the same, but the emoji controller gets a new digest. All right, so that should be it, actually. That's all I wanted to show you. And yeah, this should also actually, before we wrap up, this should also be working for Laravel Vapor, because Vapor will upload everything inside the public folder, and since the dist.js folder is inside the public folder, that is also going to be uploaded to a CDN, and we are actually making use of the offset URL. So the manifest file under public import map manifest, this should get, well, not for the libraries, but for our own imports over here, this should get the full URL that Vapor will create for us. So that's awesome. And yeah, that's how you can configure an application to use import maps. And I have actually done this prior work, and if we go to the tone, actually tuple demo app, I think that's the repository. There is a PR. There is a PR over here where I've done the work to bump it to use import maps. You can see everything that we did here. And yeah, we did all this together. And yeah, so that's how you can install import maps, install and use import maps in an existing Laravel application. So yeah, let me know what you think. And yeah, that's it. Try the package out. I'll wait a couple days before we actually tag the version 1.0, but it's done actually. Maybe I would change some stuff like the entry point file. It's usually just the app module, so maybe this should be optional. I'm also going to change the location of the manifest file, maybe, because I don't know. Doesn't feel right to store it in the public folder. Maybe something inside the storage folder app, something like that. Like the artisan down creates a file in storage, I think, storage app or storage framework. Yeah. So it creates a file over here. So maybe I can create a file in the storage folder instead of the public folder. I don't know. Anyway, so these are minor changes. So yeah, let me know what you think, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye.